Hey friends. I'm coming to you fresh off a morning of sort of exciting conversations and a couple things that have been good in terms of settling my own state around around some things. And one of them was a beautiful conversation I had this morning with a friend and student who we were talking about how, that moment sometimes where if we're entering a new life, if we're, which on some level we always are. That's kind of one of the things that I've discovered anyway, as a matter of course, in doing this kind of work, is there's a way in which we're always launching a new version of ourselves, a new life in a way. And but we were talking about how, sometimes you're asked to back up where, what makes you qualified to do this, or how are you qualified to do X, or what is your background that gives you the platform from which you're making whatever the next claim is, right? Or, taking the next step. And sometimes it feels like those things are somehow a mismatch. I certainly know in my own experience, I'm sometimes 100% confident that this is the track for me. This is the way. And if you then ask me, like, for my resume or some way of verifying, well, how do we know that? It's almost like it doesn't match up. Or I feel the deficiency there. I feel a kind of like, oh, I don't know how to, like, actually, I have this 100% confidence, but then when I look at the documentation, it somehow doesn't jibe. It somehow doesn't match. And, and I took that as a sign. I take that as a sign that I'm making big changes. Of course, sometimes I'm able to back up what I'm talking about or where I'm headed, but sometimes we're taking a leap, and sometimes we're turning over a new leaf, and we're jumping into something because we know it's right. And the fact that we can't document our history so as to perfectly support this outcome doesn't really matter. That's not actually the most important thing. And the conversation reminded me, and reflecting on it, reminded me of something that a lesson, I guess, or almost like a life parable that repeated itself in my mind over and over the years. And basically, so when I was younger, I spent a lot of my time playing pool. And I've told people I wish I'd spent half of that time playing piano, but I didn't. I spent it playing pool in pool halls in Ohio and New York and wherever I was. And there was a period in New York where I actually took a couple of lessons from this guy. I think his name was Rolando at Amsterdam Billiards on 74th and Amsterdam. And one of the things, and it was one of these lessons where I was, I'm like this young, arrogant kid. I thought I knew more than the teacher. I didn't, I definitely went in there like totally full of myself and thinking that I knew better. And yet I still managed to learn a thing or two in this lesson. And there was one thing that really stood out to me, which is, we were playing a game, and he was kind of talking me through, okay, well, here's how I would think about this position. Here's how I would think about this lay of the table or whatever. And I took a shot, and I was setting myself up to get my leave. In other words, my next position. Whenever you're shooting a shot in pool, you're thinking at least one shot ahead, if not two or three shots ahead. So I took my shot and I got my leave, and my leave wasn't quite what I wanted it to be. The cue ball went a little too far, or it didn't quite go far enough. I didn't quite have the angle on the next shot that I wanted. I could still hit the next shot, but it wasn't set up quite as optimally as I had been hoping. And I kind of winced. I kind of went, self-recriminated. And Rolando said, hey, watch that impulse. Because think of it like this. If you, yeah, sure, like what you'd have rather had this, right? And he takes the cue ball and moves it and says, this is what you were going for, right? You were going for this leave, which would be kind of perfect because it would make your next shot and your next setup after that real easy. But you didn't get that. You got this. But think of it like this. If you walked to if the other person missed and left you this, in other words, the position that you were currently in, if instead of you yourself not getting the perfect setup that you were going for, instead you received the position that you got by having the other person miss and they left you that, how would you feel? And the answer, of course, was a rhetorical question. The answer was, of course, it'd be great because it was still fully possible to take the next shot. It was a great position to have been left if it were coming from the opposition. And the only reason that I was kind of like, getting frustrated about it is because I thought I could have gotten even better. But there's a huge lesson in that, which is, in the way that Rolando was talking about it, he's saying, look, you're looking forward. To be upset about this leave is to look backwards and think, oh, I could have had an even better leave than I have. But that's not relevant anymore. It's now. And now you're always looking forward. And that lesson has kind of stuck with me in so many ways, because it's also similar to what I was saying a minute ago. We don't always have exactly what we thought we were gonna get from our past. That's not how it works. We're always looking forward. And so that I sort of sometimes make it an exercise. Okay, well, what can I walk to the table fresh every day or every minute or in whatever, just always essentially, can I step up to the table fresh as though this current lay of the land in this moment right now represents a new set of opportunities and a new set of circumstances to kind of launch forward into. It completely reframes this idea that, like, oh, well, if I had done this back then, I would have been better off now. And I look at what has been lost between what I could have done if I had done it this way back then and what I actually did do, which resulted in this. And we're sort of comparing and contrasting and critiquing past decisions, past, the way that past events have played out, which we truly can't control, and which even at the time we may think we had more control over than we actually had, right? There's definitely an illusion of control in a lot of these situations where we're expecting ourselves to have it to get a certain result, and then it doesn't work out that way, and then we're incredibly upset. And it's like, well, but what's how is there anything to learn there about how things went as opposed to how we thought they were going to go? And B, what's happening now? If you step up to the table now and you were left this, what would that feel like? So that's my pool shark parable for the day. It's just a way that and I don't know that I've ever even talked about this story, but it's one that certainly sticks in my mind as I've reflected on things, because I just thought that was a really profound statement. It was a really profound, especially for a pool player to say. You'd think that would come from like a philosophy teacher or something, but it was really just a great way of thinking about not just the game of pool, but the game of life. Can we step up to the table every day as though we've just been left this set of circumstances, this set of opportunities. And what would we do with that if we were treating it like a fresh set, right? If the alternative were nothing or this set of circumstances, wouldn't it just always seem like an infinite bounty of wealth and opportunity and amazingness? Of course it would. If the alternative were to not be playing the game, to not be at the table, it would seem fantastic, the set of circumstances that were being left. So that's just something that I kind of came to me in reflecting on the day, reflecting on the conversations, reflecting on certain events in my own life as well, kind of where I have to take a deep breath, acknowledge a mistake, acknowledge something that it's not the way I thought isn't working out the way I thought it would, but where I don't want to get too stuck on that. I don't want to take too much time, burning energy and time, getting all upset about it, getting all worked up about it. It's like, no, what happens now? Where are we going today? What's my next shot? What's the next move? Do that. Enjoy the game. Have some fun. So that's where I am today, people. I appreciate you. Thank you for this conversation. I'm hopping back into MacGyver later this afternoon. We're doing a run to brush things up, and then tomorrow back on stage in front of an audience. So very exciting. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow.